That was in the condition and getting told by close friends. But anyway, I tried it on the desk and it was funny and I like walked over and was like, I think it was so loudly.
All right, we're going to call the public meeting to order. Steve, can you call the roll?
Yeah, Justin Clark.
Jason
Clark.
I'm here.
Jason
It's
Clark.
funny because that's my brother's name. So.
Libby Truby.
Excused.
Heather Court.
Here.
Liz Bonner.
Present.
Matt Williams.
Here.
Kevin Bolt. Here. Justin Seven. Here.
Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, takes us to item 3.4. Can I get a motion to appoint Stephen Grotto as acting district clerk pro tem for the March 5th to 2025 Board of Education meeting?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Takes us to agenda changes. Can I get a motion to accept the agenda changes, which are the revision of item 13.4, instructional appointment, leave replacement, and the revision of 14.1, a non-instructional resignation for the purpose of retirement?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Takes us to 5.1, student rep. Hey.
So last week on Thursday, National Honor Society inducted 52 new members into our chapter, so congrats to all. Junior Ren Willa McDonald completed the Poetry Out Loud regional semifinal recitation contest at SUNY New Falls last week. Congrats again. We have a lot of congratulations this week. Congrats to all members of the indoor track and field teams for the performances in the state qualifier meet that was held this past Saturday at the Armory in New York City. State qualifiers from the girls team include Livy Lathrop, who will be going for high jump, and Rihanna Thomas for shot put. Additionally, Rihanna met a personal best for herself of 33.10 feet, coming in second place overall, so congrats with that. For the boys team, their 4x800 meter relay team made up of Michael Ayala, Judy Herman, Kean Walsh, Landon Fracassi, and an alternate of Brian Burns. Will also be attending the state meet. Their 4x200 meter relay team made of Nico Bloom, Aiden Armstead, Aiden Rukoff, and Sean Mars. And Sean Mars is also qualified for the 55 meter. He is also top 10 in the state right now. The state meet will be happening on Friday into Saturday this week, so good luck to all. The boys basketball team defeated Ellenville with a score of 73-42 on Wednesday last week. They're currently in their semifinals game over in the gym, so we'll have to see how that turns out. And the Maroon just released their first print issue of the year. I have a copy if you guys want to take a look. If anybody else is interested, we also have articles available at themaroon.com online. The middle school is hosting their production of Aladdin Jr. later this week. Showtimes are posted on the New Falls page if you're interested. I think the first show is the 7th at 7 o'clock. So, just a little throw out there. Lenape students and Duzine students will also have one of their roller skating parties at Wooden Wheel. I apologize, I don't really have a lot of information about this because I got this from a student and she said that she was really excited about it. So we're not sure what time or what date.
We're excited.
Exactly, they're excited. Duzine students just celebrated their 100th day of school and students made projects with 100 things to celebrate. Great.
Thanks so much. All right, takes us to first public comment. So 6.1, public comment guidelines. There will be a public comment sign-up sheet at each board meeting. Persons wishing to address the board should sign in their name and town of residence prior to the start of the meeting. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to present their comment. In-person public comments will conclude at the end of 30 minutes. Speakers will be called to present their comments in the order in which they've signed up. The board requests the first public comment period be limited to the comment on agenda items only. The second public comment period will be open to comment on non-agenda items. If a member of the public wishes to submit a public comment via email, emails must be received by the district clerk no later than 12 p.m. on the day of the board meeting. The individual may request that their comment be read aloud at the meeting. Comments read aloud will be read in the order in which they were received and will be read after in-person comments. In the interest of time, emailed comments read aloud may be limited, and when feasible, public comments received via email that are not read aloud will be printed and made available at the meeting for public review and upon request of the district clerk. The board president reserves the right to limit remarks from the public which are repetitive or offensive. Comments submitted by email that are repetitive in nature may be summarized. Public comments may not identify a person by name or position. Comments submitted by minor contain sensitive information will not be read aloud or made available for public review. Public comment is not meant to be a dialogue, but rather a time for the board to hear comments from the public. At the conclusion of the public comment period, the board may, at their discretion, offer comments or ask clarifying questions related to topics or issues raised by the public. Takes us to Mr. Egan.
Fantastic.
Okay. Takes us to 7.1, Superintendent update.
Okay, well, lots going on. I'll hit the main points. One is that you may recall last year we purchased this year we purchased an EV bus, and we've been anxiously waiting the arrival of the bus, but not that anxiously because first we have to have chargers put in. And so we met with our architect today. They anticipate that they'll be getting 2 chargers put in by around the beginning of the end of the summer, end of the school year, starting in the first weeks in July. They'll be putting in our EV bus chargers, so we should have our EV bus ready to roll for next school year. Progress. As you go through your agenda, you're going to see John Bartels. He is a member of the facilities department, been with us for 18 years, and he is retiring this year. So thank you, John, for his service to the district. Aladdin is this weekend. The sectional basketball game is right now. And Big Fish is coming up, and that's the high school play. Also, the all-district choral concert, March 11th, will have 5th graders, 8th graders, and high school students. And then the 13th is the all-district band concert. That was something to go to. So I'll stop there because I have a lot to talk about later about budget.
The officers up pretty big at half,
All right, I'm good. So some of you know that.
19 points ahead.
Wonderful.
All right, takes us to section 8, board committee reports. 8.1, policy committee, Liz.
Okay, so the policy committee met on the 26th. We moved our meeting up by about 2 hours to accommodate Steve's desire to go to the MHAL basketball game. So the policy committee was very generous with their time and came earlier than usual. We had a pretty productive meeting. We went over policy 7552, the student gender identity policy. We reviewed our current policy and we didn't want to make any changes, so we just wanted to review that one. 7211, provision of interpreter services to parents who are hearing impaired. This one was reviewed by our legal counsel. They had a few recommended changes and we accepted their changes. 7212, response to intervention. We're still waiting a review on that one. 7223, rank in class. This was reviewed by guidance. They recommended some changes to clarify provisions that apply to juniors graduating early, and that one's coming to the board for review. 7260, designation of person in parental relation. This was reviewed by legal counsel. We accepted their recommended changes and passed it on to the board. 7314, students presumed to have a disability for discipline purposes. This policy already exists in our manual, essentially verbatim, so we're recommending that the BOE just pass this policy without any changes. 7350, corporal punishment / emergency interventions. We discussed the New York State portal that's used to send semi-annual reports to the Commissioner of Education, and we didn't make any changes. We recommend the BOE pass it without changes. 7360, Weapons in School and the Gun-Free Schools Act. We recommend the BOE pass this policy without any changes. 7410, extracurricular activities. We discussed our district procedures for establishing extracurricular activities, and we discussed what a limited open forum means. That's a provision in the policy. And we recommend the BOE pass this one without any changes. 7430, contests for students, student awards, and scholarships. We discussed scholarship procedure, and we recommend the BOE pass this policy without changes. 7440, student voter registration and pre-registration, we are going to recommend the BOE pass this without changes. 7450, fundraising by students, we recommend the BOE pass this policy without changes. 7460, constitutionally protected prayer in public schools, pretty boilerplate, we recommend the BOE pass this policy without changes. 7510, school health services. We discussed immunization requirements, but this is covered in more detail in policy 7511, immunization of students, which we didn't have time to get to in the meeting. So we recommend that the policy is passed as is, and we'll bring you 7511 next time. That's all I got.
Thank you. The only thing, I think the second policy you mentioned isn't part of 9.1, so we can just note that and ensure that we get it out.
The second policy, 7211,
Nope, the second one that you spoke about.
that was 7211. Do you mean 7552?
Yes.
The reason that that's not listed is because it's already in our, we passed that policy in May, and we just wanted to review it to see what our policy says and be sure that, it's accurate where we want it. And so, since it's already been adopted recently, we don't need to adopt a new version.
And all those policies are attached to the agenda, and we'll vote on them, or approve them rather, at the next meeting. Takes us to item 10.1. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes of the business meeting of February 19th, 2025? All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to approve the items in the consent agenda, 12.1 through 15.1?
Second.
All in favor? Takes us to new business. Can I get a motion for 16.1 for the acceptance of donation from NPCSD Foundation of Student Enhancement? And this is a donation of $2,325 to fund the Plastic Fantastic Project, which will be a sculptural experience for high school students where they're going to assemble a 16-foot geodesic dome out of 6,000 post-consumable water bottles.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I get a motion for 16.2, the acceptance of donation from NPCSD Foundation of Student Enhancements, which will be funds in the amount of $1,800 to fund Lenape Playground Gaga Ball Pit projects.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Takes us to 16.3, 2025-26 budget presentation.
Are there any copies of anything that we should have?
Steve, is there any copies
There's an agenda, but I do not have a copy of the presentation. Typically, it is attached to the agenda, but Sandy wasn't here to attach it. So
But we can make that available.
we will make it available. Deb,
Let me see.
I also, since Sandy's not here, don't have a little clicker.
Oh, I
Would you, you have a clicker?
just give me a second.
That's-
Find it. Sorry.
Doing something.
Is that-
It's doing something.
There you go. All right, so just a couple shout outs before we begin with the budget presentation. As Dave said, we had a nice National Honor Society presentation the other night. A bunch of students were inducted, 15-something. Their sports are going well also. Congratulations to our athletes. Faculty and staff, Mr. Warren has been recognized by the prestigious NIAAA State Award of Merit, and Secretary Jenna Manning also recognized for the Judith Martin Secretarial Award. These are both state level awards. Congratulations to them. The students are busy. The middle school is preparing for Aladdin this coming weekend, so make sure you come and see Aladdin. And High School Drama Club is doing Big Fish at the end of the month. If you listen carefully, you can almost hear them singing right now. New Paltz is doing well. We routinely rank high upon the U.S. News and World Report list of top schools in the country. We are 1,907th in national ranking and 187th in New York high schools and number 1 in this particular area. So congratulations to our students for their success and our teachers. Got a lot of good things going on. Facilities also, we've had some capital project discussions. In general, our facilities are very nice and we're very excited to be having a great place for our students to go to school. We're also very supportive and thankful to our taxpayers who approved Proposition number 1. Those who recall the discussions that we had at length, Proposition 1 was geared mostly toward energy and safety and needed upgrades. So not a lot of glamorous things in Proposition number 1, but not cheap either, $17 million. So we're very appreciative of the community for supporting this, and we will begin working on them as fast as possible, and by the summer of 2026, we'll probably be breaking ground on a lot of these things. And of course, I always take a moment to thank the taxpayers at this point, because every year our budget passes pretty high rate, and even though the taxes go up every year. Just for comparison, this year taxes went up 3.63%. The year before, 1.23%. Back in 2022-2023, the taxes went up by 4.57%. That's not insignificant. So we recognize that fact, and we appreciate the support of the taxpayers. But of course, this is the 2% tax cap, which is never 2%. If you look at our history, it is all over the place. It even goes negative sometimes. And that is what determines how much money the community pays for the school each year. So what you're probably interested in is this year. And the tax cap is a complicated formula with many variables in it. And I will provide this to the public in an upcoming presentation, or our community update, so you'll be able to see it. But basically the big factor here was a capital project exclusion of $700,000. You may recall that last year when you voted for the budget, you also approved a $2 million capital project, which would go toward upgrading fire alarms and elevators in the district. So we anticipate that some of that money will be spent next year, and that money is part of the calculation. And because we're spending that $700,000 next year, it raises the tax cap limit a little bit. So the tax cap limit that you're all most interested in is that number right there. You can't read it because it's small, but I'll tell you it is 4.35%. So you can, if you vote for the budget, you will be voting for a 4.35% tax increase. That does not mean, of course, that your taxes go up by 4.35%. It really means that that's what we take out of the community. So whatever tax levy we took from the community for taxes last year, we're going to ask for an additional 4.35% for 2025-2026. Your taxes might go up by 4.35%, but really it's based upon the assessed value of your house and how that assessed value compares to the assessed values of all those around you. So your taxes perhaps will go up by 4.35%. Now, when we talk about the tax levy, that is the chunk of money that we take from the taxpayers. And New Paltz, no surprises here. Most of the money we get comes directly from the taxpayers. If you look at the breakdown, 70% of our money comes directly from the taxpayers. 27% comes from the state, and the rest is miscellaneous, which we'll talk about more. So you may wonder, and if you've heard my pitch over the last, this is the third year I've done a budget presentation, it's always worth mentioning that the state does not support us at the level that we need them to support us. And the reason is because they do not see us as a needy school district. They see us as a wealthy school district. And how do they come to that conclusion? Well, it's based upon two main things. One is the combined wealth ratio of our community. It is the property value plus the personal wealth added together, divided by 2, and it gives you a number. And if the number is high, well, then they think that you are not a rich school. These numbers are from the previous year, but they haven't changed much. Your combined wealth ratio for our school is 1.159. And if you look at the other schools in our BOCES, you will find that only 2 schools are higher. Onteora is 2.4, and Rondout is 1.3. So we are one of the highest, one of the most wealthy districts in one of the most wealthy communities in our BOCES, according to the state. The other thing they look at is free and reduced price lunch, and we also get ranked on that. So if you look at that number, our poverty rate, which has gone 27.7%, it is the highest, the lowest by far of any of the other schools in our BOCES. So when the state looks at those 2 variables, they quickly conclude that we are a well-off district and we don't need a whole lot of support, which is unfortunate. They also look at our fiscal stress score every year, where the comptroller looks at all the schools and tells you how stressed you are financially. And you can get a score anywhere from 0 to 100. You get 0 to 44, no designation, you're in good shape. And then farther up, susceptible, moderate, or significant financial stress. And it's based on a bunch of different things, including your fund balance, your operating deficits, your cash position, and reliance on short-term cash flow. So if you don't have a significant fund balance, that's going to be a strike against you. So you're probably wondering where we rank. The answer is we usually do quite well on this variable, but it's changing. In 2022, we have a score of 0. Yes, that's good. We weren't fiscally stressed. Last year we were up to 3.3, hardly noticeable, but in 2024 we're up to 16.7, which means the state is noticing the financial difficulties that we are having. So, this is not anything to worry about. We're still far, far from being stressed, but it is noticeable that it is changing. All right, so let's talk about the 2025-2026 budget, because that's why we're here. The 2 big things we have to look at, obviously, just like you do at home, is revenue. How much you have coming in, and the expenses, how much you have coming out. In a perfect world, you have more coming in than going out. Of course, as time passes, you'll notice that our budget gets bigger and bigger every year. At a fairly consistent rate, I think, except for right there in 2021, 2022, and that was when the federal government gave us lots of ARP money and grants, and so we spent that money to combat the effects of COVID. And obviously, we haven't really ever gone back down. So let's look at the estimated revenue. And I apologize if you can't see it, but your local property taxes. We anticipate with a 4.35% increase that we will take $51,490,000 of taxes. That is a 4.35% increase, as I said. So that's the big chunk, $51 million. State aid is going to go up slightly by 0.5%. Again, nothing about our school is only going up 0.5% except for state aid. They are not keeping up with the times. So $90,000 increase in state aid. Can't do much with that. Federal Medicaid. You'll notice that we had no Medicaid reimbursement last year. And this year we're going to estimate $100,000 in Medicaid reimbursement. So that would be what our estimate is. That will definitely help. And then, of course, other local revenues, pilots and tuition, and a few other things, that money is going up by just a small amount. It's $2 million. So when you add all of this together, the important number for you to remember right now is $73 million. That's how much money we've got coming in to pay for everything, $73 million. So let's look at your expenses now. Expenses are broken into three basic categories: administration, programming, which is instructional, and capital. These are broad categories though. Estimated expenses: administration, which includes BOCES admin, legal fees, Board of Education, a lot of other things, is 10% of your budget. Program and instruction, teachers and learning, that is 76%. You would want that to be your biggest one, and it is. And then capital, facilities, and also the debt that we have to pay is about 12%. So together those add up to 100%. That's where the money is spent. So let's go into a little more detail. Administration. This covers a lot of things. It covers administration, covers BOCES office, it covers all of our legal expenses, it covers a portion of special education administration, and all the benefits that go with these employees. So when you put that all together, that comes up to a total of about $8 million. Program and instruction. This includes special education, includes all of your teacher, your regular ed instruction, your special ed instruction, transportation, all the benefits that go with it, sports, extracurriculars, guidance department, computers that we use. All of this falls under program and instruction. That is $58 million, up almost $3 million from last year. Capital, facilities, and debt service. This includes your school buses, all of the debt we're trying to pay back, all of the people who work in custodial facilities, all of that combined together is almost $10 million. So when you add all those together, you also have to, I forgot about the buses. The buses are also in this bucket right here. We're going to request the taxpayers approve the purchase of 4 buses, 2 65 passenger buses, a smaller bus, and a Suburban, which is exactly what we bought this year. Well, it's what we planned to buy this year. We then made a few changes so we could afford an EV bus. We're not proposing buying another EV bus at this point. So, total anticipated expenses, add them all together, 76 million, almost 77 million. So, if you remember, the revenue was around 73 million. So, there's the problem you see. In this budget that we've given you, there are things that we have put in that we believe you wanted us to put in. Some things we kept from ARP. Now remember, your American Recovery Grant ended in September of 2025. So things that were in there were summer work for guidance and summer work for nurses. We still need that work, so we added that in, even though it was paid for by a grant previously. We added back some things that were cut previously. $2,000 for the superintendent conferences, or for superintendent go-to conferences. We have added in iPark lease that we have, that BOCES is doing. BOCES is now going to lease out the iPark in Kingston for their vocational school. So each of the schools in our BOCES has to pay their portion of it based upon their enrollment. So our chunk of that money is $184,000 a year. We've added back money for furniture and instruments and calculators. We've added $51,000 for a unarmed security guard working mostly in the high school. This is something that you directed us to do 3 or 4 board meetings ago. It is in the budget. We've also added $50,000 for a scoreboard for the football field. As you recall, this is one of those things that was in Proposition 2 that didn't get passed. Proposition 2 didn't get passed, but it is something that we need to pay attention to. Hopefully it won't cost $50,000, but that's what we've estimated. So all of these things are in the proposed budget. We've also added a stipend for continuing ed. Program has gone well, but it is currently being run by volunteers, and by volunteers I mean Heather. And it's a lot of work. Heather can't keep doing it. Shouldn't keep doing it. We want it to be done correctly. We need to put some money toward it. So we have added $5,000 for that. Again, any of these things that you don't want in there, you have the freedom to tell me to take them out. But that's what is in the budget right now. $5,000 stipend for somebody to do the director job of continuing education. There are things that are not in there. Two things that I think you might want to know about that are not in there is an athletic trainer, $112,000 estimated. Another thing is enrichment summer school. Enrichment summer school has been paid for the last few years by the ARP grant. That money is gone. We've not put it back in. So, back to the nuts and bolts of it all. Your revenue is $73 million and your expenses are $76 million. That means you're short $3 million. And that doesn't sound good, but actually it's better than the last 2 years. So, this isn't good news, but it's not as dire as the last 2 years. So how do you close a $3 million budget gap? Obviously, you get more money or you spend less money. Or you use your savings. So we do continue to try to find more money. We have the opportunity to rent out the middle school this summer to BOCES so they can run their special ed summer school there. We're happy to do that. $40,000 would make hopefully a little bit more. Depends on how many rooms they decide to use. Medicaid, we've begun billing for Medicaid for the first time for a while, I guess. And so we're going to estimate $100,000. Sorry, you've already seen that number go by. We've done well this year investing money. Deb Kaczynski does a nice job of taking the money that we haven't spent yet, and investing it and getting a high interest rate. Interest rates are high right now, which has really helped us out a lot. And we continue to pursue opportunities for grants. So we are looking for money, but we also have a fund balance that is worth talking about. So let's talk about savings. Each year, in the past 2 years, we've used some savings to balance the budget, a significant amount. It's significant, but it's not as bad as it sounds. Last year we used, for this current year, we used $2.1 million of savings. But at the end of the year, you do tend to get some money back because, when you budget that you're going to spend this much money and you spend this much money, you get a little bit left over. We always try to have a little bit more so that we don't go over a particular line item. So there is money that comes back each year that offsets the money we put in, but it's still deficit spending, not something that we want to do. Let's be more specific. If you look, you can see the fund balance that we have used over the last few years. Back in 2017, 2018, we put in $1.5 million. This current year, we're up to $2.1 million. So the amount that we've been using for savings continues to grow. From savings continues to grow. Fund balance falls into two categories as well. It's the money that's reserved for a particular use, and it's the money that is not reserved for a particular use. So our current fund balance is $8,590,000. That sounds pretty good, but it's a little deceiving. If we look at our reserves, reserves are something a school district can have to plan for the future. When you put money in a reserve, you're supposed to have a reason to put it in. Sometimes you even have to have a vote to put it in, and you're supposed to spend it for that purpose in a timely fashion. These are all the reserves a school district in New York State can have. Capital repair, workman's comp, unemployment, tax certiorari, reserve for debt service, insurance, property loss, retirement, and employee benefits. These are the ones you can have. They all have different rules. Some you have to vote for, some you don't. We don't have all of these. I would say our reserves are somewhat unimpressive. We have 4 reserves. We have workman's comp, money to pay for claims that might arise if a person is injured at work. We have unemployment insurance, where we pay if somebody claims money for unemployment. This will help cover it. Our repair reserve, which we've talked about in the past, is pretty small. Retirement contributions, we do have some amount of money there for paying for ERS and TRS contributions. So that's what we have. We look at the actual numbers. Workman comp, $890. Repair reserve, $4,000. Can't do much with $4,000. TRS, TRS $500,000. ERS $900,000. And unemployment is 500,000. So those are not big numbers by any stretch of the imagination. We also have encumbrances. So out of that 8 million, 1.3 million has already been promised to be spent. It was money set aside to buy things from this year's budget. So I don't know if it's been spent or not, but at the time when this came out in the auditor's report, that money was ready to be spent but hadn't been spent. And then appropriated fund balance, 2.183 million, which we said we were going to use to cover all our expenses for this year. So when you look at the number and it says we have $8 million of fund balance, that sounds good, but 6 million of it is already kind of accounted for. So that leaves an unassigned fund balance of just over 2 million. And you may say, is that a lot or a little? Well, the answer is it's 3% of the 2024-2025 budget. 3% is not a big number. The state says the most you can have is 4%. Many schools feel 4% is not enough and would like to have more, but legally you can only have up to 4%. We discussed this particular situation with our auditor back in the fall, and he said he was not overly comfortable with an unrestricted fund balance of only 3%. So in the perfect world, we would do something to move that up to 4%. So fund balance is available, but it's certainly not as big as we would like it to be. Still short by 3 million. So now you're going to have some decisions to make. If you're short 3 million, you can use savings. Obviously, if you use $1 million, well, then you got to come up with $2 million of reductions. If you use 1.5 million, you got to come up with 1.6 million in reductions. If you use 1.9, which we have reused in recent years, you still have to come up with $1.2 million of reductions. Not a pretty picture. We are recommending this procedure. We're recommending that you take $300,000 out of the retirement reserve. That's what it's for. A rainy day. It's a rainy day. We do have money left over from your capital project back in 2015 that we can use to help pay for bills, and that is $154,000. We recommend you use that money. We have more for future years, and then we recommend you use 1.9 million of unrestricted fund balance. If you do this, if you use all of this money, it is 2.3 million, which is more than we have used in past years. It's a significant amount. And even if you do that, you still have to reduce expenses by $800,000. This is our recommendation. Now you may be wondering, geez, if you use all of that fund balance, will you have any left? And the news is somewhat good here, because we have gotten some money, unanticipated money. We got bullet aid from the state. They basically gave us $50,000 extra and said, one-time deal, $50,000, I'll do what you want with it. That's helpful. Medicaid reimbursement. As I said, we're predicting next year that we'll make $100,000. We're predicting that somewhat based on the fact that this year we made $84,000. We were reimbursed for all the Medicaid, all the services we provide that are Medicaid reimbursable. We're getting back $84,000. That's a huge benefit to us. But best of all is the fact that interest rates are high. So if you're buying a house, interest rates being high are bad, but if you're investing money, that's a great thing. So we can't count on it every year, but we anticipate getting 1.3 million on our investments. So that's great news. In fact, that's saving us. That's what's going to allow us to use a big amount of fund balance. Also, the fact that we will get some money back at the end of the year from unspent funds. So when you put it all together, we think that this is going to help push our unrestricted fund balance up from 3% to 4%, roughly, which is where we want it to be. So that's really good news. That allows us to put in the amount of fund balance that we're recommending that will allow you to have fewer expenses needing to be reduced. So, reducing expenses is generally positions. Obviously, we can cut things, and we have cut quite a bit in past years. We've reduced all the line items that we can reduce, but we've still, in the last 2 years, reduced over 25 positions. Tremendously large amount. Many of those people who lost their positions have been able to come back, which is good news. I would say there's less than 6 people who were eliminated who are not back at this point. But still, if you're going to cut 25 positions, how can you keep cutting positions? A valid question. The answer is it has to do with enrollment. Our enrollment has been going down, and if anybody's been watching my presentations the last 3 years, this is no surprise to you. Our enrollment has gone down significantly. If you look at the numbers, back in 2023, 2024, we had 1,700. At this point, we're down to 1,600. By the fall, next year we'll have 1,600. The following year we'll probably be below 1,600 students if the trends continue. We still have bigger numbers in the high school, but our kindergarten, first grade, second grade, 100 kids in each of those. So like 10, I think it's 10th grade has 160 kids. That is, yeah. 10th grade has 160 students. 11th, 12th grade has 147. If you graduate 147 kids and you bring in 100, your enrollment goes down. So that's how it's possible to reduce positions. It's not pleasant, it's not what we want, but in order to right size the district, positions need to be eliminated, and when we eliminate them, it allows us to balance our budget. It is that simple. So, again, from 2008 to 2024, 35% decrease in enrollment, and over the next few years, we anticipate another 20%. That's what makes staff eliminations possible. You can see, back in 2017, 2018, when we had 2,169 students, we had 426 employees. The students have gone down, and the employees have not. In fact, in 2021, 2022, and 2022, 2023, we had 37 employees. Over the last 2 years, we've reduced that number down to 409. So we've made inroads into right-sizing the district, but there's still room for more. But it gets harder each year to identify positions that we can reduce. So here are recommended reductions for you to achieve the $813,000 that you have left to go. We propose eliminating a full-time middle school social studies position. Propose eliminating an integrated technology position and eliminating a high school ELA position. Collectively, they save you $374,000. These are the most significant ones because these are real people who are in these jobs right now. So in the past, we've been talking about 12 or 15 positions eliminated. We're pleased that the number is lower, but that doesn't help the people who would lose their job if you approve this. Additional ones. Now these are vacant positions. Point 2, digital electronics teacher, made possible by retirement. 1.0 special ed and 1.0 special ed. These are both elementary special ed positions. These are made possible because of the fact that we have a small number of special ed students who need integrated co-teaching classes in kindergarten and first grade. We have 2 sections. We anticipate being able to go down to 1 section and still be able to fit the students very easily. So these are, make no mistake about it, these are elementary special education positions. I bring this up in particular because there's also efforts going on in the high school to redo the way we do resource rooms. And so some parents have been having conversations during CSE meetings about reducing resource rooms from 80 minutes a day to 40 minutes a day. That has nothing to do with these reductions. That's simply a change in the practice. These reductions are elementary special ed reductions. And also, we have an account for typists in the middle school who are retired. We're going to replace that position with 2 monitor positions and save $22,000. So if you do these things, that's a savings of $327,000. We do save a little bit of money due to retirement. Again, we had a teacher who retired who was teaching .8 math, computer teacher. He will be replaced by a teacher going from .4 to 1.0, so it's only a .2 reduction. It saves you a fair amount of money though. Other retirements collectively save $93,000, so it's not a lot, but it's something. So this is a total savings of $110,000. So summary, this equates to 4.4 total positions reduced and a savings of $813,000. So let me summarize our recommendation to the board. Tax cap of 4.35%. Use $2,354,000 of fund balance and reserves. Eliminate $800,000 of expenses, which is the equivalent of 4.4 total positions. 3 of those positions are real people who are working currently in our district. And I suggest that you approve a budget of $76,095,330, which is a 3.5% increase over last year. That's it.
Thanks, Steve.
So, to recap, you feel that by the end of the year, we can get back to our 4% tax cap?
We believe
On the
that we will be able to be back to 4% tax cap.
Okay.
Wait, not tax cap.
Not tax.
Fund balance.
4%
Oh, sorry,
fund
sorry,
balance.
sorry, I'm sorry.
Because-
Unassigned fund balance.
Yep. Because of the money we invested mostly.
But then the plan is to use $2 million of it for next year.
Well,
It's gonna be
yes.
replenished.
Yeah, we're gonna use $2,300,000, but it'll be replenished mostly by the investments that we have, plus money left over from the budget from the previous year, plus Medicaid.
So no, it's a kind of a new source, just a small one, on the scoreboard. Given that it's going to be in the budget, does that change, I guess the timeline of getting that installed probably would have, started in 2026, given everything that needs to happen with approvals and everything. Will it be able to accelerate it all, given the kind of the change of where the money came from?
The scoreboard.
Yeah.
Scoreboard we should be able to do right away, because it's not a capital project.
Right.
Yeah, we should be able to do it, ready for next sports season. Should we move our camera back to where it was?
Oh.
Yeah, I'll tell you when you're in a good spot if you want.
Do we have any data, or maybe Deb knows, our fiscal stress ratings before 2022?
I don't. I know quite a few years ago, it was pretty high because there was basically no fund balance.
Okay, so that was, so 2022 was like 0, but before that it might have been much higher.
It would have, yes, it was absolutely much higher.
You probably said this, Steve, what's the reason for the recent increase in our stress score? Is that because of the fund?
Well, I can tell you what the variables are. I don't know for sure why it came out that way, but the fund balance is the one that seems obvious to me.
So is this a score, 0 to 100, or what's the
Zero
scale?
to 100 score, right? So 16 is no designation, but it's still notable that it's gone up.
In some of your figuring, you said grab something from retirement, some amount, 500,000 maybe, something like that.
I think it was 300,000 from the retirement reserve.
And what does that do to our position to have that go on? I mean, I know that's liability.
Well, our unrestricted fund balance can be a maximum of 4%. Our reserves, there's no limit on them. You could add more money, but you're not supposed to put in money until you're going to use it. So, it reduces our reserves, and if I had more money, I would say let's replenish our reserves. If the legislature, I mean, we have the executive budget, and we're happy that we actually got an increase, that was a surprise. I don't think the legislative budget that comes out later will be more, certainly not significantly more, but if it was a little bit more, I would recommend that we replenish some reserves with that money.
And speaking of reserves, the repair reserve seems very small for
It's insignificant.
Would it be, I mean, I know there's not much wiggle room, but going forward, would it be wise to try and have more repair reserve? Or what would that get used for?
Well, that's an interesting thing you mentioned that, because I said that a few of these you have to have voter approval. Repair reserve is one that has to have voter approval, so you wouldn't be able to even put it in without telling the voters what you're going to use it for. In fact, we kind of bounced that around when we talked about the capital project. I was like, hey, can't we put money into the capital reserve, or into the repair reserve, and we decided it didn't make sense to go down that road. It was easier to just do it as a capital project. So for all of these, they're all reserves that I'd like to have more money in, but at this point, we don't have more money to save for a rainy day because we're using it for a rainy day.
So, well, just the concept of repair reserve, I'd say, halfway through the season, the scoreboard breaks down. You gotta buy a new one. Would that be inappropriate? for the repair
Well, it
reserve?
might be, but we have money in our budget for maintenance, so.
Okay. You try and have enough
try to
maintenance for the year.
Yeah, we do anticipate.
One of the things with the repair reserve is when it goes to voter approval, it's for a specific reason. So it's, let's say we're gonna need a roof on the high school. We will put out to the voters a roof on the high school we wanna put away $5 million over the next 10 years. So that gives us the ability to take some of our extra money at the end of the year and put it into this reserve. And then when we actually go and do the work, it goes back to voter approval to do the work, but you have to spend it on what was specified when the voters voted on it.
But we don't really have a surplus at the end of the year. So it seems like that couldn't be something you would take advantage of.
But if it's over a 10-year period, you don't know what the outlook will be in 5 years. So if you have extra money, you may not put it to a retirement reserve. You may choose to put it to the repair reserve to help fund the roof.
Bottom line is our reserves are not impressive. We wish we had more, but this is not the time where we have the money to do it unless we get money from the budget.
What will be the time to think more seriously about beefing reserves?
When we have more money.
I guess when I saw your presentation, it looks like we are reducing positions to balance our budget every year because we can, because enrollment is dropping. But what's going to happen when enrollment levels off and we still have a $2 million, $3 million deficit? What happens at that point? When you can't just identify people that are cuttable, so to speak.
It's a fabulous question. The state needs to help us out, not just us, but the states, all schools all over New York State. They're not providing us with the state aid that we need. And so we're getting by. Everybody's getting by by the skin of their teeth. Obviously, we've got to keep looking for revenue sources, but we really need the state to step up.
I think that's when programming really starts to get impacted.
Yeah.
Program and looking at other options, and I think one of the other options we're looking at is closing disease. So, and it may be reducing repair money, it may be reducing money for technology. You just go through the items, supply items, repair items, and start reducing.
Shane, I said everything with the EV bus has taken so long because we don't have an opportunity to identify how well it's working to say, you know what, let's add another to the fleet.
Yeah, we were excited to have it. We never got it. So I'd love to know what it's like. But I can't at this point. I would not say to you, hey, let's get another bus.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah. I agree.
If the integrated technology position is removed, how will the responsibilities of that position be fulfilled?
Well, technology director and director of curriculum will come up with a solution. Add anything to that?
I mean, I think, yes, we know what to talk about, what that could look like, depending on how the board goes. I mean, I know one thing that we do not avail ourselves of is the model school days that we get from overseas. We often have days left. In the previous district that I worked in, anytime that we got a new program, model schools came to support the implementation of it. So they've had a turnover in their model schools administration, which makes it a little easier for us to work on. So that's one piece of a much more complicated puzzle. So we have to work through it.
Anything else that you, I know that was a lot. We'll have an opportunity at the next meeting, I think. We're going to budget time at the next meeting.
At the next
Sure.
meeting, we're gonna have a community forum at the beginning of the meeting where the public can come and give us their input on things. I'll be putting out a community update in the next couple of days. I know a lot of you are trying to take pictures of this. I apologize that it's small. But I'll get all this information out to you so you can digest it a little more slowly.
I do have a question about the security purchase. I'm just trying to find it. The 50, how much was it?
$50,000.
Okay, so that's just for one person in high school,
Correct.
nothing in the middle school,
Correct.
and it's a full-time position
It would be a full-time position.
that we would post to fill, not using like something like
Well, we
Atlas.
wouldn't post it. We would use the security company. We would say, hey, we want a security guard. We want to lease a security guard from you. It would not be our employee. We would be leasing them.
Okay.
And I imagine we'd have some say in who we got, but maybe not a lot.
So it would be like using Atlas services.
That's right.
Is there anything to expand on to that role in terms of, I know, we've got a lot of bathroom issues and just in terms of maybe roles and responsibilities that you see that fulfilling?
Well, this is not a role I requested. This was a role that you all requested, but I see that being valuable. Certainly, I would see them working in the front of the building when people are coming into school, helping with making sure, even before school, that all the exits and entrances are locked up tight. I wanted to do a whole circuit of the buildings beforehand, make sure everything good. Certainly, being there, if there's an altercation, we responded to that. I think monitoring security cameras when possible, checking the bathrooms on a rotating basis, trying to see what's going on there. Definitely, you mentioned it as some support for teachers and administrators in enforcing the phone policy. That came up originally in conversation. I think that's valuable. I think parking lot checks are valuable. I would also say that they should go to the other buildings if something in particular was going on where their extra security or extra presence was needed. I have no doubt that we can fully utilize them.
Does Atlas do any of the assessment or recommendation for how the role would be fulfilled?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but they've offered to come up and meet with us, so I'm sure they would have some suggestions. I'm sure they have a better handle than I do on how these on our security guards are used at other buildings, so I'm sure they would have good advice.
Is it worth looking into what it would cost to hire somebody in-house rather than using a contracted service? I'm sure there are some benefits to that person being our employee instead of Atlas's employee.
Benefits and everything kicks in.
I mean, it would be more expensive, I'm sure, but I'm just curious, there's probably some pros there.
Well, if you do it, if you hire your own person, you have to train them. And you don't really have the wherewithal to train them.
Okay.
And if something goes wrong and they're our employee, that's one thing. If something goes wrong and there's somebody else's employee, that's another thing. I can tell you that schools around here use a contract out.
Most do.
Most do.
Do any have their own in-house security?
I can check, but I've not heard about that.
I happened to be in a school shortly after closing time where Atlas Security was there, and we ended up talking to two of the security. They were unarmed security. This particular school had both SROs and unarmed Atlas Security folks, so they just had walkie-talkies. And, very nice, with my head, gave me 20 minutes of his time. I just don't I mean, I hear I've read the concerns from the public. I certainly want everyone to be safe. But if we're spending $50,000, I just hope there's like a clear directive of what challenges they're tasked to ameliorate.
I can promise you that we will give them full attention, and we will give them a distinct list of things we want them to do. We'll listen to what they have to say, but they will know what their job is. We'll make sure they do it.
And hopefully take responsibility of things that are on the shoulders of other people right now that maybe are a little more taxing than they should be. In terms of sending somebody out in the parking lot to go look at things when they've probably got a lot more important things to be doing.
Yep. Again, I'm not asking for this position, but we will take full advantage of it if we have it.
And then maybe just, I'll say this real quick, maybe just to clarify, I know you touched on not filling an athletic trainer, but with the system that we've adopted, the games that we've listed that have been filled has been very successful for all, our intent is to fully support that moving forward.
I had more information on the slide, but I think I would whip by it too quickly for anybody to read. So we've set aside $16,000 to have athletic trainers work at 80 contests next year. So that sounds like a wonderful solution. It's not a wonderful solution because it's hard to find people who can actually fill it. So out of the games this year, the contests this year, we tried to find somebody to do it. I think our fill rate was less than 50%. So this is not a wonderful solution, but it's a cost-effective solution. And when it works well. We've had some good people come in and serve as athletic trainers. But again, I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. It's hard to find people who can take these jobs.
I would really like to advocate for a full-time athletic trainer. Direct impact with students.
What's that number, 115?
115.
I'm certainly willing to discuss other options to make that possible. The app has been great. It was a great suggestion we had from the guy that showed up. And we filled maybe half of our contests, but those contests we filled were all during spring break at SUNY during the time when they weren't working. I wonder how many contests we filled when they were in session. And I think the benefit of an athletic trainer who's here for their home competitions, treat kids with physical injuries, which happen constantly. They're also available to treat injuries after the fact during the school day and do preventative.
That 50% fulfillment, is that on all of our contests, or is that on the number?
Just the
of
ones
attempts?
we listed. I believe
So-
we listed 6. I
Out
don't know.
of the attempts, 50% is successful?
I said less than 50%. I think it's less than 50%.
I mean, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I remember, I can't remember what you had mentioned, Steve, that you had Greg had posted for a bunch.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't all of them, it was whatever we posted for, and we filled less than half of them.
Well, I've directed him to post for all the spring events. And I told him that there was one particular, we had two different people who came and served. And one was awesome, so I asked him to call this person and see how many this person could commit to for the spring. Don't have an answer yet for how many, but that person, as you say, is only gonna be free when they're free.
Yeah,
So-
the numbers I'm talking about were for the first round that you had
Yeah.
posted, so I don't know what happened in the second round.
And the benefit of the app is that you can have a trainer theoretically at every game, whereas if you have an in-house trainer, they only can be able to place at one time.
I suppose that's theoretically true, but the chances of us having one person for every meet is very slim, and have two people, one to go this one and go to this one, is never gonna happen. can still happen.
So we're posting for the games that we feel are most needed.
Yeah, and you know, if it's a home day on a spring, in the spring, you can probably walk around and see 3 different sports going on.
Can we have specific numbers on this? Just, I mean, I'm hearing, you know, an estimate, which is great, I'm sure that's accurate, but I'm just wondering if we can see specifics on exactly how many were posted, exactly how many were filled, just so we can get a really clear picture of how well or not well this system's working.
I think it was relevant to, in regards to who are those individuals if they're already employed, if they have a fluctuation in the schedule, whether it's spring break or otherwise. So that's also a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, when the contests were.
I mean, it just, I feel that like the app, that sounds great at the board table. Makes us feel good, but it's not working. It was a creative idea that the guy who came forward, and kudos to Greg for, you know, the board, Greg made it happen, but it's fallen short. And we have, I don't hear the numbers I would love to get. How many kids are injured, like bleeding, really injured at sporting events? We have no one to take care of them. Yet parents come out of the stands to treat them. Not all, like, you know, like that happens not infrequently. Treating kids that are injured.
Yeah, I mean, with wrestling, there's blood time built into the sport. I mean, it's expected that
Yeah.
you're gonna have a bloody nose. It's
Yeah.
not considered like an emergency or anything, but.
No, I
so,
get that.
you know,
I believe I have your information. So 10 original postings were made, 5 were filled, 5 were not. The 2 different people showed up, performed a variety of duties, taped, monitored, and treated injuries, spoke to parents after the game when possible to share treatment and diagnosis, spoke with coaches regarding injury status as well. The app had a glitch at one point where they couldn't see all our job postings. We reported the incident to the website. It's hard to communicate with this app. Every time response time was not immediate. He added 2 other games as well, and they were unfilled. It's kind of that's the answer.
Yeah, there's no guarantee. That's-
I mean, it's a great idea, and it was a super creative solution. And we acted on it quickly.
The only thing one of the things I'm thinking is if we added it back, I feel like it would have to be with the idea that we keep it. Like, it wouldn't be that next year we cut it again. I feel like if we, because we already went through the whole process of cutting, it would have to be something we commit to. And I know that boards change and superintendents change and whatnot, and, you know, whoever inherits it can make those decisions again, but I wouldn't want it to always be coming back up on the block again every year.
But I think you said if our prior athletic trainer had left, you wouldn't have recommended that?
Well, it wouldn't have occurred to me. But now that it has,
Well, and they have saved another position.
that's what I was going to say. It wouldn't have occurred to me, but now that it has, I'm sorry, I'm going to offend a lot of the public who wants an athletic trainer, but I'd rather have a teacher. So if you decide to bring back an athletic trainer, probably going to have another staffing reduction for you.
But the staffing reduction doesn't necessarily have to be a teacher,
Correct.
be an administrator.
Indeed.
I don't know if there are any scenarios that you drummed up. I mean, I could get behind, you know, the idea of the athletic trainer. I know you don't have all the numbers now, but I don't know, there's some combination that we could maybe see in our next presentation, or maybe look into some feasibility, or we're not gonna solve it right now.
I'm not sure what to look in exactly. If you're asking me what's the next list of what I recommend for a cut, I have that information in my head. I'd rather not say it right
Yeah,
now.
of course.
But if it's something you want, we can use fund balance, but that's not a great approach.
Right.
It's either using fund balance or reducing a position.
I'm opposed to using fund balance for an annual
Yeah.
a recurring cost.
Yeah, we went to less than that. Like I said, we don't need to figure it out right now, but we can noodle on this and we'll email you, I think.
Well, I can send you information about what other cuts are possible.
Plus we have the line by line, so we can go through and figure out, maybe make suggestions of tweaks. We think we can find it.
Can you outline briefly how the middle school social studies and high school ELA reductions, will they affect programming? What's the effect of those on what's going on?
Well, the middle school, we have a position where we can eliminate one elective, which is kind of an extra health elective we can have in the middle school. We have another certified teacher who is certified in social studies who can pick up another section. So we don't anticipate social studies reduction limit or impacting the program. It will require obviously a middle school teacher moving to the high school because the actual person who's lowest on the total poll is a high school teacher. As far as English, there's one of the things that we have that's great is a lot of electives in the high school. But electives don't have to be offered every year. So we stagger some electives, have other certified teachers pick up some sections. We anticipate that we can still cover the English classes.
Okay, but it might be the electives will go. Some electives may go to every other year.
Correct. Would you like that? I get off, expand on that, or is that your roughly?
And we have reduction in enrollment as well at the middle school. So this year we had 12 sections of 7th and 8th grade. Next year we'll have 11. So.
And that's true at the high school. There's one less section in English 9 and one section in English 10. It's the other way.
That's all I've got now.
Okay. Well, so everybody come back at the next board meeting at the beginning. We'll have a public forum.
That's gonna be at the middle school.
It'll be wherever you want it to be.
TV, but yeah, I think that's probably like
Probably
middle school. It's worked out well.
Middle school auditorium.
Yeah.
Double check the calendar.
Yeah.
March 19th. All right, that takes us to 17.1, our second public comment. I know we took the sheets. I know a lot of people have come in since, so I guess the floor is open if you have any public comment. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Angelo Yuriko. I'm the district-wide K-12 integrated technology teacher. I am also the advisor of the high school outdoor club. I have been here for 5.5 years and have been doing similar work for 25 years, including being assigned to New Paltz in my position at Ulster BOCES at one time. I'm a certified computer science teacher, business teacher, and school district leader. I'm a longtime local resident and taxpayer. The integrated technology teacher is an instructional coach that serves all teachers district-wide with the integration of technology, ultimately having an effect on all students in the district. The role includes providing presentations at faculty meetings, grade level meetings, and professional learning communities. The integrated technology teacher is a thought partner, a collaborator, a co-teacher, a guide, a teacher of teachers, as well as a teacher of students. In addition to providing consultations to educators and co-planning lessons that effectively incorporate technology, the integration technology teacher assists psychologists, social workers, nurses, coaches, and all other specialists and administrators. As the integrated technology teacher, I get to provide these services to help the district meet the goals in the technology plan, the Smart Schools Investment Plan, the Professional Development Plan, and the implementation of the New York State K-12 computer science, and digital fluency learning standards. I help teachers implement multimedia student classroom projects and have brought an understanding of generative AI to teachers and students. I am a thought partner on the 6th grade team that is bringing Gen AI literacy to students. And I have been co-teaching a Gen AI literacy lesson to all 9th graders. I've been a lead support for the implementation of the grades 3 through 8 New York State computer-based assessments. I'm an expert on the Google for Education platform and the use of Chromebooks, and undoubtedly was instrumental in the large-scale instantaneous switch to online learning at the onset of the pandemic. Please visit my teacher webpage on the district website to learn more about that. Lastly, our district has a wealth of technology stuff. We have almost 1 Chromebook for every student, specialized computer labs, smart projectors, and a phenomenal amount of software, and are pursuing more as we speak. We have a robust technology department made up of 9 members, of which the integrated technology teacher is the only teacher position. Just this school year, the district filled a vacant technical position, and 2 years ago, a director. We have an abundance of support for researching, purchasing, unpacking, setting up, installing, repairing, and recycling all the stuff. And we have 1 person, the integrated technology teacher, dedicated to helping people use the stuff. The impact of this role is far-reaching, serving all educators and students in the entire district. And recently learning that this role is being suggested for removal in this year's budget causes me great concern for the district's fulfillment of its goals and plans for the ever-evolving 21st century demands for education. This district is my home, and the potential loss of my role devastates me on a personal and professional level. I hope I've been able to share what I believe to be my irreplaceable value to the work we do here. Thank you.
I'm nervous. Okay. I'll forget to thank you at the end, so thank you all for letting me do. My name is Molly Carrera. I live in New Paltz. I've been here for, don't like talking, 25 years. I have a son in second grade at Duzine Elementary. I am concerned about the myriad executive orders issued by the current presidential administration of our country and how they will affect our community here in New Paltz, starting with our schools. My husband and I care deeply that the teachers at Duzine Elementary teach Black and Hispanic history and gender diversity in their classrooms. The New Paltz Central School District reassured us at the beginning of February, thank you, that our schools remain committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm an artist and a bookkeeper. I'm not a lawyer. As I understand it, the governing state law that pertains to such matters is called the Dignity for All Students Act. And it's super short, I'm going to read it. The New York State's, I'm going to go fast on what time it is, seeks to provide the state's public elementary and secondary school students with a safe and supportive environment free from discrimination, intimidation, taunting, harassment, and bullying on school property, a school bus, and/or at a school function. I'm here tonight because I want to know more about the district's policy and plan regarding complying with this state law now, but especially in the future as pressures continue to mount from all the federal directives against diversity, equity, and inclusion in our classrooms. I have read the policy available on the website, and I cannot find anything about the plan to enact that policy. Actual actionable steps to make it ideal a reality, or at least how to practice it in the classroom, in the playground, etc. Specifically, how will you protect our teachers and staff? What actionable items and plans are in place? When X happens, we do Y. When Y happens, we do Z, stuff like that. Specifically, how will you educate our parents? How do you explain what these concepts are and why they are important? Every year, my son brings home a flyer about Aaron's Law and what specifically our school teaches our children to help prevent them from sexual abuse. But I don't get anything equivalent about steps and conversations taken in regard to diversity, equity, and exclusivity. Or at least not that I can. I don't know what the process and procedure is for parental input, if there is any, or if shoring up these at-risk provisions and procedures is on your agenda yet for 2025. But I respectfully ask that you add it, please. Thanks.
I know I missed the
first reading about Ducine, but I wanted to speak for a moment about the Ducine building, if that's okay.
Of course.
My name is Christine Sutton, and a lot of you know me. So I titled this A Plan for Saving Ducine, because I'd like to think about saving it rather than closing it. The first thing we should consider is, do we really want to let go of our history? For over 60 years, this is where the youngest students of New Paltz have gotten a solid beginning. It is the only building in our district that was designed for the safety of our 4 to 8-year-old students. We do not have steep stairs or long walks to the playground. It has been said real estate cannot be lost or stolen, nor can it be carried away. Purchased with common sense, paid for in full, and managed with reasonable care, it is about the safest investment in the world. I implore the New Paltz Central School District to retain our investment and to manage it with care. A few suggestions: rent a significant area to BOCES or to another outside organization. Charge for the use of our gym, cafeteria, and other available space. Outside organizations like basketball, pickleball, yoga, karate, etc. For many years, this was the policy that they did rent the space, and I believe it could be reinstated. If 5th grade students move to the middle school, which I've heard is the thought, then 2nd grade students can move to Lenape. Ducine can remain open for pre-K, kindergarten, and first, and have the above-mentioned area to rent to BOCES or another outside organization. These changes would not cause overpopulation in either building, and co-teachers would be able to maintain their small group workspace, which will be eliminated if all of Ducine is moved to Lenape. Already small spaces will not have to further shared, causing inefficient instruction. Social workers won't be placed together, school psychologists, speech teachers, reading teachers, OT, music, and large shared spaces will not be overcrowded by having to double up classes being served. Three classes of students in gym at one time rather than 2. I go on, I know that's my time, talking about possible reductions of staffing and how things could be changed. I just want to take one more second. I ask you to indulge me. Please take these ideas into consideration along with so many others I have heard suggested by former students, parents, employees, and let us work together to save Ducine so it can continue to be the family-oriented space that it has always been. Check out our sledding hill after every snowfall. Check out our playground any beautiful weekend. Let's open our garden space to community gardening. Watch the families walk to the Millbrook Preserve through our backyard. Let's reestablish traditions we've had in the past. Thank you.
Chris, if you want to send that in its entirety to me, I'd give it to the board.
Well, I made copies. And because I am a visual person, I actually made a map of what I'm talking about.
All right. Moving on to 19.1, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.